Welcome back to the Strategic Veteran Podcast. I'm your host, Adam Peters, and today is going to be another banger. So have you ever had one of those moments where life grabs you by the balls and says, hey, pay attention because this is going to change everything? Well, I have. Years ago, I hit a point where I thought I was fine. Just pour a drink on it, keep moving, kind of okay. Spoiler alert, I wasn't. But digging out of that dark hole taught me something. It taught me resilience. Resilience isn't about bouncing back. It's about showing up for yourself. And today we've got someone who knows firsthand. Tim Thomas, a man with two first names. This guy's story is raw, honest, and as an Australian Special Forces Commando turned to sleep and wellness expert, is a hell of a lot more relevant than I'd wager you realize. He's been through the fire, survived an ambush in Afghanistan that shaped his life, and channeled all that experience into empowering others. His mission now is to transform how the world connects to better sleep, health, and living. Tim's the founder of Breathwork in Bed, because sure, anyone can sell you a pillow, but how many people can teach your body and mind to rest, like really rest? After a decade working hardcore veteran recovery and building programs that tackle transition challenges head on, he's got insights you won't want to miss. So let me ask you this. How the hell do you rebuild yourself when the world expects you to just suck it up? Well, let's dig into that one with Tim Thomas, our guest, who is fortunate enough to be visiting us from the future here. Tim, welcome to the show, man. I'm really excited to have this conversation with you, particularly after listening to your books and all that good stuff. So welcome, man.
Adam, thank you so much for that generous intro. It is great to be here. I've got a very powerful feeling inside of me that our conversation is going to add so much value to those listening.
Oh yeah, man. I've been thinking that since we first connected, since we met on Podmatch and the emails back and forth. I've really been excited for this one, man. So without further ado, first things first, every veteran comes on the show. They have to answer the one question: where did you grow up and what inspired you to join?
Sure. Okay. So I grew up on the far west coast of South Australia. Now, if you were to compare it with anything, like the deep south where, you've got from an outsider looking in, like hillbillies and stuff. Well, that was where I grew up. And my father, and there's a statistic about my hometown, Australia's most prejudiced town, because there was a lot of racial conflict between the local Aboriginals, and my father worked for them. And so we were kind of stuck in these two worlds, like, a lot of whites in the town hated us, and the blacks didn't hate us, but they didn't trust us. But after about 3 or 4 years, that changed, and we became accepted. And when you get accepted into that culture, you're always there, right? So it was so amazing to grow up in that culture. And I found out very quickly as a small child that every elder made a particular artifact. And if you're underneath 5 years of age, they can't say no to you. So I would find the oldest black guy around and say, what do you make? And that's, I make a boomerang. Oh, can you make me a boomerang? And we'd go through the whole process together. I would go out in the bush, would cut the bend in the tree. I'd sit next to him as he chiseled it down, then he handed it over. And I've still got some of those artifacts to this day. So growing up in that space was absolutely amazing. And I still go back over there hunting with those guys as regularly as I can. But from my current location, they're about 3,000 kilometers away, which is about 2,500 miles. But growing up in that space, I was fortunate enough to grow up without any, phones or tech. And so I could really, like a free range kid, always with scuffed knees, and then I went to college in the sort of the big smoke. I didn't know I was dyslexic. Back in the 70s and 80s, the technical term for dyslexia was you're stupid. And you tell a kid that enough and they start believing it. Yeah, right. But what it sort of taught me was, and it wasn't until my mid-20s came in where because I genuinely believed I was stupid. Like, that's just the way life is. The sky's blue and Tim's stupid. And if I can't be smart like everyone else, I might as well have fun. So I was that disruptive kid in the class, right? So, but then in my mid-20s, I started doing these IQ tests, and I realized, oh crap, I'm not as stupid as they say, And then I started thinking, how many other gifted people don't get to reveal their gifts because they've got a belief in their head that they're not worthy, they're not worth something. So it really gave me a heart to sort of bring potential out of others, because of my own experience that I took a certain thing for granted. Like, Tim, you're stupid and you're probably not worth too much. So it really means a lot to me to live a life to add value to others. And I first applied to get into the Army when I was 19. I was working on cattle stations in the Northern Territory, or you might call it, I was working as a cowboy. In Australia, we call them ringers.
So you just have to apply to get into your military?
Oh, hell yeah.
They don't just take you.
Yeah, no. You've got to fill out a bunch of paperwork, and it was, I applied when I was 19, but the amount of muck around that happened. I'd put my paperwork in, they'd lose it, it'd go back, lose it, the paperwork. I'm like, yeah, right. Okay, yeah. I'm sure it only happens in Australia.
No, yeah, got it. But
yeah.
No, it's just fascinating to me, because if you walk into a recruiting office for any one of the 5 branches here in the United States, they're going to be chomping at the bit to do everything they can to put you in. Period.
Yeah, right.
Story. There's, barring like medical, or you just can't pass the ASVAB, you're definitely going into one of the branches. So it's just fascinating to me that you guys actually have to apply.
Oh no, it's quite, and that's what actually put me off the first time. I'm like, if they're this disorganized and I'm trying to get in, what's it going to be like when I'm in there? And from there, I in my 20s, I had this sort of epiphany when I was 25, and I basically decided I want to be a professional fighter. And everyone says, "Oh, Tim, you're too old at 25 to start this game." And this was before mixed martial arts was a thing. This was just no rules fighting. I mean, technically we were paid, but not that much, and it wasn't even legal. It was sort of these underground biker bars fights, and back then you could smoke in the bars. So we're walking into the ring and I'm coughing up half a lung, somewhere across that smoky ring is the guy I'm supposed to hit in the head, and so I probably spent 7 years full time training, 6-7 days a week, and it was enjoyable, but no financial sustainment was a part of it. And then when I turned 30, something very unique happened in the Australian military. First time ever, they started a scheme called the DRSF, Direct Recruiting into Special Forces. And that was appealing for me for 2 things, because I like the idea of, a unit that expects more, but also, I had no qualifications. I all but failed high school. I had gotten married. I was wanting to start a family, and so I saw it as a way to use all the abilities that I'd been building over the years in something that would recognize those abilities as something that would earn you a bit more coin. And so I joined this scheme, first time in Australia's history, and up until this point, you got to understand that it took 2 years to be in a regular infantry unit before you could even apply. And so we were met with a lot of opposition, when we went in there. We were considered civilian queue jumpers. Mm-hmm. And I was told between 5,000 and 10,000 people applied to get in. 70 was accepted on the initial intake in 2004. I was part of that 70. And at 30, that was the oldest allowable age. Everyone was again telling me, you're too old. But being dyslexic, I see certain obvious things. So I saw that this was the first time I was 30. I'd never been 30 before. I'd never actually aged before. Right? My first go at this, guys. So shouldn't it be me deciding what I do and don't do at that particular age? And I ask the listeners to draw this to them. Whatever age you're at, let you be the one deciding what happens and doesn't happen at that age. Otherwise, I would have let all those other people saying, "Oh, no, you're too old, you can't do it." And I'm like, no, that's you saying you can't do it. That's not, you don't put words in my mouth.
Well, and for me, I'm sitting here looking at this like, okay, so this is the early 2000s. The Army, the United States Army that I come from, they did the same thing in the early 2000s with the Green Berets. They had the SF baby program. So this is about the same time. I also am looking at this as somebody whose career ended at 30 years old. So I was medically retired at 30. And I know what kind of shape I was in trying to keep up with 18-year-olds in the regular infantry. So I can only imagine what this is like for you. You're a 30-year-old man going into special operations off the rip. Like, I get that you grew up in the outback. I really love your whole description of growing up in the outback and the lessons you drew from that in your book. I highly suggest people listen to Breathwork in bed because it's phenomenal. But really, like, you've been training and all of this, and now you're going to put all this to use. But that had to be a challenge at 30 years old. I mean, you're in there with a bunch of younger guys trying to meet a standard, trying to keep up. What was that like?
Okay. The challenge for me wasn't physical. Here's the challenge for me. For all of my life, Adam, I'd always known what I was supposed to do. I had a sense of calling, right? And when I was swearing in, the officer said, if anyone here has got any second doubts, you know, now's not the time to have them. You got to go or stay. And for the first time in my life, I'm like, I have a second doubt here. I'm not sure if I'm supposed to do this, you know? And so here was my body going into this, new world. And there was a part of me not sure if I wanted to do it. So I felt very torn. And then I had this sense that, there was a part of me when I'm watching those, war documentaries that, you're listening to obviously the survivors, the people who survived the battle. You're not listening to the guys that died. And I always thought, yeah, I'm going to be that exception to the rule, that survives. And then when I'm going into it, I'm like, no, I'm not going to be the exception to the rule. I'm going to freaking die.
Yeah.
Right.
We think we want it until we get there, and then we're like, fuck, this sucks. I don't want this anymore.
That was my moment. The old, and there was my, my then wife, as I was swearing in, and I'm like, is this the only way for me to give my family the life they want? And I kept moving forward, but I always felt very torn. But I mean, yes, there was, of course, the physical challenges, but layered into that was this sense. I always had this sense that I was going to die. And to the point where before my first deployment, I got like the best insurance, because I thought if I'm going out, I might as well leave some dollars,
Right.
It was quite, I actually got rid of my fear of death when, I thought about what am I scared about here? I'm scared about my son not having a father there to accelerate his growth. Because ideally, as parents, we need to evolve as much as we can, and then let the next generation evolve from our point forward. It's quite a sobering fact when I realized that if I'm gonna messed up in my head, all that stuff doesn't die in the grave with me. That gets paid forward to my kids. It gets paid forward to everyone around me. Hell, it got paid forward to a lot of people in traffic when I was going through my PTSD. I'm
Generational
like,
trauma is what
yeah,
you're talking about. Yeah.
that's right.
And that's what guys like you and I are out here doing, is breaking those cycles, because nobody fucking turned us on to that as a real thing. We had to figure it out the hard way. And it's like, okay, time to do something about this. I'm with you on that 100%, man, because I, like you, until I went and did ayahuasca last year in 2023, so I guess almost 2 years ago now, I had this irrational fear of death too. And it was for a selfish reason. It had nothing to do with raising a kid or anything. It was like, I'm just not going to be here anymore, and the world's going to go on without me. And it's this terrible, terrible, indescribable feeling that I couldn't get rid of. And you would think somebody with almost 5 years of combat time and all that good stuff, as an infantry guy on the front lines, being in Iraq, Afghanistan, you'd think I'd have gotten over that. And I didn't, man. I carried that with me until ayahuasca took it away from me and showed me that there's a lot of better shit on the other side of this life that we don't even know about. And I can't wait to talk to you about the breathwork stuff, because you can experience a lot of what I experienced in ayahuasca with the breathwork stuff. And so, man, I'm just so excited to talk to you. I don't even know where to take this conversation, because there's so many things that I want to talk to you about. Like, first of all, I'm really curious because we live basically on the opposite ends of the planet. Our military experiences, while different, are probably very much similar. So I think for me, paint the picture. What is Australian Special Forces like? Like, what would you compare that to from the United States? Are you guys like Navy SEALs? Do you have like a mission like the Green Berets where you're kind of out training an indigenous fighting force and kind of, you know, building up a fighting force that way? Are you just direct action? Like, what are you doing?
Okay, so to start with, of course, we're better than everyone. That's what we get told, right?
Of course you are. Yeah, right.
But everything you just said about, there's in Australia, there's two special forces units. There's the commandos, and then there's the SAS.
Okay.
And we can do a lot of what the SAS do, but the SAS, they're more specific, smaller team, kill capture, an amount
So
of
they're going to be
time.
more like our tier one guys, our Delta and our SEAL Team 6 type guys. And then what you're doing is more like, we'll just call them tier twos, your regular SEALs, your Rangers, Rangers are tier one, believe it or not. I don't know how that works out, but whatever. Yeah. So I've got the picture now. I get it. And you guys are loosely based off British tactics, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Being a British colony, a lot of our stuff harks back to the British influence. And the commandos in Britain, that's part of the Navy, but in Australia, they're part of the Army. But we have an amphibious capability, and that's what initially made a commando. A commando was it was like an infantry guy with an amphibious capability. But then, especially with Afghanistan kicking off, we've really sort of specialized into our own unique niche. Like in Afghanistan, we could do things that a lot of other special forces couldn't do. The duration we'd spend outside the wire en masse, the amount of range of area of operations we could actually control. And I remember we had this map of Afghanistan and our range of influence. And I worked out, and I'm thinking, like you work your ass off to get trained in this job, but then it shows up. Like for every man that we had in the unit, we could basically control a 50 by 50 kilometer, which would be about a 35, 40 mile by 35, 40 mile patch of dirt. And I'm like, oh, that sort of, all that training shows up with kind of the amount of space that you can control and deploy and impact the area of and deny the enemy, movement. And Afghanistan was probably the best thing that ever happened to us DRSF guys, the direct recruitment guys, because we were very much considered second rate until actual combat happened, and we showed that we could do everything that everyone else can do, and then they became like a big fan of the scheme, and it's still in action to this day.
I love it, man. That's pretty similar story to what I hear from my Green Beret friends who, they didn't like they call them SF babies, is what they were, right? And they treated them like shit until they would prove themselves. I think there's still a lot of argument whether or not that's a good program or not from a maturity standpoint. And I'm sure, it's probably something you could speak on, having been one of the first classes to go through that, particularly as an older guy in your 30s with life experience that automatically makes you more mature than some of the younger kids. But let's talk about the Afghanistan deployment and the ambush, because that's really what we're here to talk about is how you discovered what you're doing now and the breathwork stuff, man, because I'm a firm fucking believer in this stuff. It's life-changing stuff. So the floor is yours, man. Let's talk about the Afghanistan ambush. I really liked in Breathwork in Bed when you talked about how the fuck do you calm yourself down when everything is going on around you. And I want you to know I've actually used the trick that you used in that moment in the book. I used it actually a few nights ago in bed because my mind wanders a lot. It doesn't shut up at night. And I did. I stuck my damn fingers in my fucking rib cage and I lifted that bitch up. So, man, the floor is yours. I want to hear it all. I want to hear how how you discovered this breath work in this pivotal moment in Afghanistan while shit's fucking exploding around you, and how you've gotten to where you are now, and all the work that you're doing, because that's the important part and that's the life-changing stuff.
Okay, so I will talk about the life-changing moment that happened in Afghanistan, but I'm also going to give some we'll do a practical little workshop afterwards so people can experience more than what we're talking about.
Yes.
So it's going to be a lived experience. So get ready for that one. So, but to sort of dovetail back to the 2009 Australian Commandos are on deployment in Afghanistan, fatigue's at a whole new level. I mean, of course, you train for this, but in a combat zone, it goes to the next level. You've lost mates, you've had limbs blown off others, and again, I had this sense I was going to die. And this one night, we got word that there was a RPG ambush, rocket propelled grenade ambush up ahead. Nothing new, but
par for the course in Afghanistan.
Of course, it's just another day in Afghanistan, right? And the order came because the way it normally rolls is the heavily armored vehicles get told to go to the rear of the convoy because that's the place that gets normally attacked because that's least defended. And the vehicle I was in was just a four-wheel drive with the roof cut off, or a light-skinned vehicle with machine guns, turret, and machine guns in place. I was on the 50 cal, my favorite weapon, and in the rush before heading into this ambush, the heavily armored vehicle pushed in and cut us off, and we were now the rear vehicle going into this ambush. And my vehicle, everyone in the vehicle knew what was up. My vehicle commander looked back and said, "Fellas, if this goes the way I think it will, it's been an honor serving with you." And in that moment, I was mad as hell. Because that fucker in my mind, the fucker in the heavily armored vehicle was saving his own ass, and we've all done a ramp ceremony, or we've been part of, lost someone who's done the ramp ceremony where, the fallen brothers got the flag over the coffin and they're coming down the ramp of the airplane as they get brought back to country. And I saw my own ramp ceremony, and I'm like, we're, the weeping widow, the kids, and I'm like, I'm going to have all this bullshit ceremony all because we got cut off in traffic, and so I was so fucking angry, and all that emotion, and basically I was saying, I'm right, you're wrong. And I've got a right to be fucking angry, right? But what that had done had basically tourniqueted off my thinking brain. And after the anger was there, I was going into like feeling completely helpless, alone, and what the hell, right? And a question came to me that has changed the rest of my life. And that was, Tim, who do you know who has done this before, and how did they get through it? Now, I thought about this, and I'm like, I don't actually know anyone. And the night got darker. Australia seemed very far away, and I began to feel, even more alone. But then I thought, you know what? I started thinking outside my timeline. And in Australia, we have the Anzacs that, they went up on Gallipoli Beach. They had the Turkish defenders waiting for them. And it was Australia's sort of debut in the world scene of our fighting grit. And we commemorate the Anzacs every day in Australia, once a year in Australia, called Anzac Day. And I thought, well, yeah, I do know some men on a night as dark as this went up against an enemy that was waiting for them. And what did they do? They kept moving forward. The outside world could not stop them from seeing the power inside of them. And it was, and this was over 100 years ago, right? These guys are mostly dead. And it was like a portal in time opened up, and they came through. And on Anzac Day, we say, lest we forget. meaning lest we forget the sacrifices of those gone before us. And it was like these Anzacs were poking me in the chest saying, Tim, lest you forget the power inside of you, lest you forget the power of looking after your mates. And in that moment, I went, it was like the first breath of light, okay? And physiologically, I was all hunched over like, fuck the world and fuck everybody, right? But then when I breathed in, I straightened up and it was like night turned into day. My whole body felt illuminated. And that tourniquet that was on my intelligence just fell off. When my isolation was broken, and it was broken by people that weren't even alive, right? It's just the knowledge of that person. Okay, and I'll get back to the power of that in a second, right? But with this intelligence now unencumbered by me feeling sorry for myself, I started thinking, okay, what do you know, Tim? You know that RPGs self-detonate at 1,500 meters, or in yards, it'd be about 1,800 yards. So they're probably going to be shooting at us between 8 and 1,200 meters, 1,000, 1,200 yards. And so if you look at the arc, that gives us, and we're going at 35 kilometers an hour, I worked out we're going to be in the kill box for between 3 and 5 minutes. I'm like, okay, I've got something to work with here. And then my circulatory system jumped out of my body, and I saw it like a street map. I saw the blood going from my heart, down my arms, down my legs, and I saw my brain. I'm like, the brain is the critical piece of kit right now. All I need to do is maintain positive pressure. Take the emotion out of it. This is just a pressurized liquid state that needs to maintain for that brain to be functioning. So you could lose an arm, that's fine. You just put a hose clamp on it, put the tourniquet on it, and that'll maintain positive pressure to your brain. It's not like you have to worry about a goddamn infection, right?
With one problem at a time, right?
Right.
Oh, man.
And so I got 2 tourniquets. I put them on my chest because I needed to be ready to do it for my brothers, right? Mm-hmm. And I thought, look, 3 to 5 minutes, even if I bleed out and die, my brothers are going to be able to revive me with a saline drip. Okay, so there was a lot of trust in that vehicle. So once I broke my own, I got out of my emotional state and I broke my isolation in my brain, I started not just connecting powerfully to myself, I connected powerfully to others. And the more connections you have, the more energy, the more options. So I'm like, fuck yeah, right. Okay, and then with all of that, it's like my higher thinking kicked in. And before we hit the kill box, I'm like, you know what? They might find my body in 5 minutes' time. But you know what they're not going to find? Magazines full of bullets. I'm emptying everything out on this one. And then I thought, Tim, that's not a bad way to live. Whether you die in 5 minutes or 50 years, you need to empty out all your ammunition. Like, your magazines contain simple bullets, but your mind, Adam, everyone's minds who's listening, they contain things so much more powerful than bullets. They contain ideas, hopes, dreams. Wouldn't it be a greater tragedy to die with all that ammunition not fired off from inside your mind?
Yeah, big time, man. God. And I love what you're talking about, because what you're talking about is just overcoming the fight or flight response. And we as veterans have a tendency to live in that fucking cortisol soaked, fight or flight constant response. And, this goes into your transition too, right? So having gone through this event, snapping yourself out of it, seeing your circulatory system, realizing that your brain is your biggest tool right here, and that I'm going to make the most of this 5 minutes regardless. That mindset shift is probably why you're still here having this conversation right now, because you shifted your mindset to pay attention to the things that matter instead of the things that don't matter. You weren't consumed by the anger of the asshole who cut you off when he was the heavy truck and you're missing a fucking roof, right? And I think that's important, because this is a lesson that you can carry to your everyday life now, right? Like, in the transition, instead of fucking drinking about your fucking problems, how about you sit in front of that fucking mirror and you face that problem head on? because guess what? The only way out is through. You're going to have to deal with it at some point. If you keep running from it, it's just going to keep destroying your life. You could have been afraid of that ambush for the entire time that ambush lasted, and you probably wouldn't have fared so well. I'm willing to bet it, right?
Well, there's a saying I like: hard times don't build character, they reveal character. I feel fortunate and blessed because I'm a thick-skinned dude. I needed to get my head jumped on a few times in Afghanistan for me to actually get through my thick skull these valuable lessons. And I think the reason I survived, I have to give credit. I have to be the voice piece to all those men that didn't come back. And part of what I do now, just sharing and speaking about it, because especially us men, like, we have these unspoken words inside us, and we'll talk about it, but we need to have those unspoken words spoken by another person who's gone through the same stuff. Oh my gosh, I'm not the only one going through this. Because the pain we feel, we feel like it's a burden if we share it with others. So I've got to, I've got to suck it up for another day. And at the end of that really sucky day, I can pat myself in the back. So, yep, I've lived through another sucky day. I've had to drink half a carton of grog, but I've lived through another day. So it's sort of like that self-congratulatory, I've eaten 2 buckets of shit. No one else could do this,
Right.
But sort of dovetailing into that experience, what that helped me do was see that when we're feeling alone and isolated, everything is hard, and because everything shuts down. The opposite to feeling alone and isolated is something that we probably felt in service, and that was, if Adam, I've got your back 100 fucking percent, and I know you've got my back 100 fucking percent. Like, everything else is a very small detail. Fucking bring on the hard times, right?
Let's
bring
go.
on the pain.
Yep. Let's go. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's so true, right? Like, because it minimizes everything. When I can trust that you have my back and you trust that I have your back, it's like we are unstoppable right now. Like, 2 infantry dudes walking through the mountains of Afghanistan, you probably don't want to fuck with those 2 guys because we will figure it out. You know what I mean? That kind of shit, right? Like, mind you, if you're trapped in that whole mindset of pity me and how am I ever going to survive this and just worrying about all that, you don't have that trust, you're kind of a fish out of water and you're lost, right?
But there's only so long you can sustain that life before you start looking into your future.
Yeah.
Because then you start saying things like, well, what do I know? I know I'm in pain, and I can see that I'm causing pain to others. Here's a great idea. I'm going to end the pain to you. I'm going to end the pain to me. I'm going to remove myself from this life. Yep. And suicide seems like this angel of light in this shitty situation, and because if you look into the future, you can't see anything changing. Our mind thinks to the level of energy our body has. And that's why I'm a big fan of sleep, because if you're fatigued, everything's hard because everything is hard.
Right. Yeah.
And I tell you something, Adam, I had a goal, and I didn't know how I was going to do it, because in Australia, we lost about 40 blokes to bullets and bombs in Afghanistan, but probably 30 or 40 times that amount to suicide. And so my goal, it's not uncommon. Yeah. And I thought, well, I want to save 40 blokes from suicide, and I don't care if it takes the rest of my life. I'll die happy if I can do that. And that was actually attained within a year, because I discovered 2 things that the mainstream didn't see and didn't have on the spreadsheet. And when I talk about this, it'll make sense, but not many people talk about it the way I'm going to talk about it. And what I tell veterans is, you might not think you're special, but I bet you've been through some shit, right? And it's our job as men to turn that shit into fertilizer. Okay, the stinkiest shit makes the best fertilizer. It's there to help you grow. And if it's taking you a year to turn that shit into fertilizer, or a decade, that's the amount of time you're going to save other people. All right. Yeah. So I'm sharing with you the shit that I've turned into fertilizer. All right. So what I discovered and what helped me save those 40 guys, and one or two guys a week would come up and share with me what had happened for them and how they were no longer going to kill themselves, was that I observed that pain, it doesn't matter if it's physical or emotional, it will get to a certain duration or intensity where it transforms from pain into loneliness, isolation. And as social mammals, we don't do well at all with loneliness and isolation. We're supposed to have each other's back. It feels good to feel connected, right?
Yes.
Everything's easy when you're connected. Conversely, when you're alone and isolated, everything's hard because everything is hard. And I can't drop my guard for a second because something bad's going to happen. It's going to be my fault.
Yep. Yep.
So
100%.
so when I was in my stinky shit, and as I turned that into fertilizer, I could articulate, I could break the isolation, I could speak those unspoken words inside the heart of these veterans, and there would be a physiological shift. Their jaw would pop open. They'd go, right, literal, and I'm like, oh, it's happened, right?
Yeah.
And they'd say words like "fuck." I thought I was the only one,
Yeah.
and I'm like, boom, that's the starting point of healing, because millions of dollars go into veteran recovery, but if that person's feeling alone and isolated, it's just water off a duck's back.
Well, I'm with you in this sentiment, Tim, because it's the whole reason I started this show. I kept hearing, "Oh, I thought I was alone in this. I thought I was alone in this." So why not start a podcast where I just talk to veterans who have come out the other side of a transition, right? That transition, I call it the transition hole. I spent 8.5 years in it, took plant medicine to get me out of it. You use breathwork to get out of it. That's a modality of, plant medicine that I learned, right? The breathwork stuff. But it's so true, because before I released one episode of this show, a kid I used to mentor in the Army reached out to me, checking himself out of a VA inpatient program. He had tried to kill himself. He said, "I saw what you're doing on LinkedIn. I saw that you're releasing a show, and I knew I had to follow you. I no longer want to kill myself." Boom, mission accomplished, right? You're not alone in this. And something as simple as having these conversations is all it takes to prove that you're not alone in this, to get that jaw drop, like you just said, right? That it's happening, right? Because the second you feel like I know when I was that fat piece of shit sitting on the couch wanting to run my motorcycle into a tree and just end it all, I would have benefited from just seeing a conversation like this, just spending the hour to watch this conversation, hear the things that you're talking about. Oh, fuck me, this Australian Special Forces Commando, did all these things, particularly later in life when most of us do them younger in life. But he's going through the same problems I am. It doesn't minimize my career anymore. You know what I mean? Like I can relate to you. Oh, by the way, high-ranking officers go through the same shit. I've had full-bird colonels on here who say the exact same things that we are now currently talking about. And it's like, man, having that perspective, that's what we all need as veterans, and to be able to heal our community is like, selfishly, man, this is healing for me. Just having these conversations, just talking to people like you about this shit makes me feel better. It's interesting.
Well, no, it's more than interesting. And you said a mouthful there, and I hope the listeners are picking up on all the value that Adam is dropping right now. But, you and I, we've got pages and pages of weapons we're qualified in. What I've come to learn, Adam, is the most powerful thing you and I own is an authentic conversation.
Yeah, man.
And you and I, we're talking authentically together, and I'm pretty sure everyone listening to this is getting massive benefit. And what are we doing? We're just being authentic with each other, and we're talking about the shit that we've gone through, and the energy we're resonating. That's what picked up and turned me around. I'm like, there's got to be a better way. There's got to be a better way. I can just look behind that guy's eyes and see there's something there.
Yeah. And I'm the same way. And I don't know how it is in Australia. I don't know what your program for veterans is, if you have like a VA system like we have. But the biggest problem I see is here. It's like, okay, I'm having these problems. I go to the VA to get help, right? Well, they just want to write you a fucking prescription for 18 different pills. And Tim, what does that do to you? It turns you into a shell of the person that you used to be. You're drooling on yourself. You're not having conversations. And oh, by the way, you still want to fucking kill yourself. It doesn't fix anything, right? And so I think what really chaps my ass about the whole situation is things like the breath work that you're into, things like mindfulness, self-awareness, meditation, yoga, plant medicine, even if you just smoke a little bit of fucking marijuana and you set your intentions, all of these things are really accessible, and they're really easy to implement into your life, and they are life-changing things. Every single one of these things is life-changing. I am not going to claim to be a super practitioner of breathwork like you are. I use a simple 4-count box breathing method when I'm having a hard time, and it really grounds me. It really snaps me out of whatever I'm going through. 4-count in, hold for 4, 4-count out, hold at the bottom for 4, repeat something in a minute. You've got like 4 solid breaths in or some shit like that. Like, that's enough for me. Have I tried some Wim Hof stuff? Yes. Have I tried your breathwork in bed stuff? Yes. It's amazing, and it costs you nothing to implement these things.
Adam, can I jump in there? Because you're really
yes,
talking my language, right? It's not until you have a chronic injury that you realize we're not in an age of information. We are in an age of marketing. The first 6 pages of Google are marketers. And it's a very big difference, a marketer to a healer.
Mm-hmm.
The reason you don't hear about a lot of the stuff that you just mentioned is no one's making money from it. And it often connects you to something powerful. And when you're connected to something powerful, there's no repeat sales. Marketers are really good at speaking those unspoken words inside your heart. That's exactly what I wanted. And look at these testimonials saying that they're speaking my language. Oh, shut up and take my money, right? Okay. And then the years roll on. They promise they don't connect you to your power, and there's money leaving your pocket, and you end up blaming yourself. And I know so many guys, they've said, look, I finally reached rock bottom. I asked for help. The help didn't help. In fact, it made it worse.
Yes.
And this is why I want to, it's up to these sort of conversations to give people real options.
Well, it's up to people like you and I who have fallen victim to these schemes that and I just had this conversation in another episode that I recorded that'll be out at the end of April. But so, in that conversation, we were talking about, this guy works closely with VSOs, which are veteran service organizations, and how corrupt they are and how much money is involved in these things. And the reason nothing is happening is because they're just so attached to the amount of funding that they get, and they're not actually interested in helping the veteran. And so what you're starting to see now, and this is obvious, I've got 88 episodes of this recorded and edited, ready to come out. And, this one will make, I think you're number 89 or 90, but through 90 conversations, it takes people like you and I to come out here and talk about these modalities that we found, the breathworks, the mindfulness, the self-awareness, the sitting with your fucking self, and stop running away from the goddamn problems, right? Like, you can't keep doing that. Jordan Peterson says it best when he says, the only way out is through. Whatever that fucking thing is that's in front of you that you're running away from, that you're turning to the bottle from, that you're eating the pills for, that you change your location every time, or you eat yourself to death with, you have to face that thing. I learned this when I went and did ayahuasca. I'm sure Tim learned this when he was fucking breathing in his house or wherever he was doing his breathing at. Other people that I've had on the show have learned this a million different ways, but it involves one of those free modalities. It doesn't involve pills. It doesn't involve drinking. It doesn't largely involve getting stoned. As long as you set your intentions, that's not an issue. All of this stuff is free, and it takes people like you and I to get out here and do this work and put it in front of people.
Yeah, and we're not the loudest voices in the room, but we have the power, and we can. Within that, it really strikes me how many years, not just veterans, but people can lose in that pharmaceutical space. I was one of those guys that said, oh, doc, I can't sleep. And I lost 6 years of my life. I was this pill-eating zombie. And no one tells you the cost of taking those things. Yes, there's a supposed benefit, but there's also a massive cost. It does cost you a part of your soul. Like, I don't remember a lot of that time, and I can't get that time back. And I'm pretty sure I lost a bunch of memories before that as well. And also, no one tells you how hard it is to come off this stuff. Like, if you want to know how to turn a second into a minute and an hour into a day, try coming off that shit, And again, nobody tells you this. They're just quite happy to throw a bunch of pills down the hallway. And when you're in desperate need and you need something right now, then you'll take anything, and that's why, I have a real heart for people that are seeking healing because they're very vulnerable. Oh, the doctor said I'm supposed to do this, you know. Uh, but I want to share something with you, Adam, and it's probably not too dissimilar to a lot of other veteran journeys, but that was my tipping point. And I hope it speaks to those listening, and it helps them, tip sooner than it took me. So, in 2011, I was about to kill a man. The Australian government wasn't paying me. I'd reached rock bottom, and my family was falling apart. I was doing a lot of drinking, and I didn't know what to do. But mainstream society said, "Oh, if you're fucked up in your head, you got to go see a psychologist." And so that didn't make any sense to me. Why do I want to speak to a complete stranger? And so but it's like, it's my only option, I guess, and it's the right thing to do. So I go there, right? And I'm peeking out before I even get there. And this guy, he wasn't just incompetent. Incompetent I could handle. He was completely apathetic. And after I told him all the shit that I saw in service, he goes, "Oh, you think it was a problem with your mum and dad?" And that's when the whole room fucking froze. And I became very aware of everything that was there. And I'm like, this is going to be ironic justice. That glass framed psychology degree, I'm going to take that. I'm going to feed it down his throat, because in my state of disconnect, it made a lot of sense, because this guy was supposed to be a healer, and he's not just not healing, he's making it worse. He's causing pain to others. So it's time to remove this guy. And I get out of my chair to do it. And then I felt a hand on my chest and the words "red flag." "Tim, you're the toughest guy you know. How many other people are struggling in a system that doesn't seem to want to help?" And Adam, that's when I sat back down, and that's when I saw him. I saw all these other people left and right of me willing me on, saying, "Tim, if you can find a way forward for you, you can find a way forward for us."
That's beautiful, brother, because that just sent chills down my whole body, because it's I mean, it's true, man. And when I was at my lowest, similar to you, right? Like, just nothing was working out. Corporate America not working out. Just no fulfillment, no purpose, no nothing. Went to flight school, thought that was my dream. Learned real quick, that's not a career for me, because I'm not going to pay the dues that they want to pay and play by their stupid rules. And getting the text messages, another dead battle buddy by their own hand. And it's like 3, 4, 5 a week. You get 20 in a month, and you're like, fuck, like I can't handle this anymore. And then, the one-offs, where good friends of yours die in a freak accident, motorcycle accident or whatever. And that was the straw that broke the camel's back. And it's like, I've got to do something about this. I can't just sit here anymore and say I wish somebody would do something about it. I don't know what the fuck I'm going to do about it, but I'm going to at least get off my ass and start talking about this and calling attention to it. Like, instead of just being the guy sitting on the couch, well, yeah, we should really do something about this. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no. And the thing is, that whether it takes you a week to do something, a year or 10 years to get through what you need to get through, that's the amount of time you're going to be able to save others. And that's what I said to myself in that chair. I said, it doesn't matter if it takes me a week, a month, a year, a decade. I've got to find a way forward for me. So and the tipping point, and the question everyone needs to draw to themselves that are listening to this is, whatever you're up against right now, everyone's up against something. Okay. And if you're a civilian listening to this, the same rules apply. Whether you're a veteran going through something, or someone with breast cancer, or a relationship problem, whatever it is, you're up against something. The golden question is this, and it's a real question that needs a real answer. How many other people do you think are going through the same thing you are right now? And give that a number. Give that a genuine number, because when I looked to my left and right, there was no depth to the line of people, right? And I said, for me, my number was 1 million, okay? And so give that a number to yourself. So I didn't start saying that, oh, I'm 1 in 1 million. No, I am 1 million in 1. It's not just me getting healing. There's 1 million people getting healing. It's not just me taking the time to find a right healer, there's a million of me finding the right healer. Every inch I made, there was a million inches being made. And it was in that moment my isolation was broken. I didn't see this incompetent, apathetic dude as any kind of concern, because that's when I felt connected. I found my tribe. So I put it to all the people listening. If you've given that a number and you can move forward, people are going to be saying, you know what, words, people you possibly haven't even met yet, they're going to be saying words to the effect of, you know what, I'm so glad in 2025 you started moving yourself forward, because that's helped us in so many ways.
I get that all the time just from starting this show. And this show has only been running since May 1st of last year. So, and I get form submissions. I got a really good one from a 11-year Marine who went and did the contracting thing. She can't find her place in the world. She's on my calendar for next week. Get to have a little coaching call with her. It's like, what you're saying is exactly how you can make a difference. It's like, just put the number to it and then start talking about it and watch what happens, because you have to give it the power, right? Like, it doesn't just manifest itself. Somebody has to be there to manifest it.
Well, and going off the idea that we don't do well feeling alone and isolated, if you give that a number for whatever you're up against, you're no longer alone and isolated. You are now 10,000, 100,000 million in one, and you are creating a space not just for yourself. Because here's the thing I always found with veterans and humans in general is, oh, do you need help? No.
No.
Do you want to help others? Yeah. I want to help others, right? What the hell, right? Yes, I'll let myself burn and die, but I won't let that happen to someone else.
Every time. Yeah. It's so true. Like, that was a large part of my problem. Was I spent my whole Army career from 17 to 30 years old, right? So being shaped by the military and the mindset of particularly the infantry, because we've talked about this ad nauseum on the show, but the infantry is its own branch within a military. Like, it just operates differently. I don't care what world you come from, what country, it's the same across the board. The infantry is just a special breed of people. And so we're taught to put ourselves to the side, to take care of the mission, the men, and then me, right? Like, it's never you first. And so for a long time in the civilian world, I was running around putting other people first. And I didn't realize the power of taking care of yourself first. And man, what happens when you devote the time to getting out of your own way, sitting in front of the fucking mirror and having that hard conversation with yourself, stop running away from the things that ail you. When you get to the other side of that and you put yourself first and you start doing the work to heal yourself, you start practicing meditation and being mindful. And oh, by the way, I want to elaborate. Meditation looks like a lot of different things. Right now, these days for me, it looks like crocheting at the end of the night. I'm learning how to crochet. It's special to me because my grandmother did it. And I was like, fuck it, I need to do something that doesn't have a phone in my hand, right? So let me crochet. It's actually really rewarding. It's very, I don't know, I enjoy it. But meditation can look like a lot of things. When I first came back from Peru, it was origami. I was folding paper, and that was meditative. That could be, any number of things. But when you start taking care of yourself, it's so funny to me, and at least this is my experience, and you can probably confirm or deny, everything else in my life that was out of place started to fall into place, and I didn't have to do any work at all whatsoever, because the work I was doing on myself was enough to make all those other things in my life fall into place just where they should.
Oh, no, I love it, Adam. You said it really well. And the way I tell it to veterans is, okay, think of us, or infantry people, or anyone, think of a small team, right? If you are underperforming by 20%, that is making everyone else sort of work, say 5% extra. If you're, looking after yourself and you're performing 20% better, then everything in your life is benefited. And this is what I love about what I do, because I can't do what you do, Adam, but if I can improve the quality of your sleep, everything in your life improves. Conversely, in the Special Forces, we used to actively target our enemy's sleep, because we knew if we could take their sleep out for 3 nights, it would mess them up better than a bullet. And there's so many people out there and this is what enabled me to save the 40 lives from suicide so effectively, was yes, you've got to break their isolation, but because people have been feeling alone for so long, they're often very fatigued. I can't drop my guard for a second. Something bad's going to happen. It's going to be my fault. So they're not sleeping. So I was successful in creating Australian recovery programs because the success of those programs was measured by how much it improved the sleep of the participants. Because if you can give someone rest, the body finds its natural equilibrium. We can heal, okay? But for some reason, a lot of people associate stopping resting with I'm not doing anything.
I'm so guilty of that even now, and I know better. I know better, and I'm still hard on myself about it. Like, for example, yesterday was Sunday.
Go. Yep.
Yesterday was Sunday, and I've been on this big push, like, to get caught up and build a roadmap to, like, follow, step by step to get me to where I want to be by the end of the year. Some really advanced goal setting stuff, and, like, I know that I'm capable of accomplishing this. And, like, part of my plan built in yesterday on my checklist of shit to do yesterday was the entire afternoon, no more work. Just veg out, watch football, go for a walk with your wife, play outside. It was gross here yesterday, so didn't do that. But just something. And all day yesterday, I felt so guilty because I wasn't doing work to move the needle forward in the business. And I was like, no, you're going to sit with this, and you're going to sit here, and you're still not going to do anything. Now, there's some other things that I did do. I still did open a computer. I wrote a little bit. That's a side project. Don't consider that work. It's something that I actually enjoyed. I did a bunch of crocheting. You know what I mean? So that's what I'm saying. Like, yeah, I still struggle with that. I understand the importance of it, and I'm just as guilty as everybody else. But at least I have the awareness now and the tools to put that in check and actually give myself the rest that I need.
Well, you're going to love this, because just like you, I couldn't sit still. Because underneath that, I had, and I'm going to dial this back a bit. You're going to like this. So the officers often talk about attacking the enemy's center of gravity, right? Because if you can attack the center of gravity, they're in fatigue. They're more worried about what you're doing than what they're doing. And when I came back to the civilian world, I observed that our center of gravity as humans is our sense of self-worth. And if you can attack someone's sense of self-worth, then you can get them to do anything they want. And that's how consumer society often works. You want to be happy? Yeah, right. Well, you can't be happy. You're not worthy to be happy if you don't have cars, shoes, a certain thing, a certain way, all these things outside of your body. And us blokes, we tend to have our sense of self-worth attached to what we do. Look at that awesome thing that I did. That's awesome. So many people value me for the awesome stuff that I do, right? And we have this association that if we're doing nothing, I'll own this. When I had the association, if I'm doing nothing, then I'm actually doing nothing, and I am nothing because I'm not contributing what I'm doing. Because what I am, without knowing it, my blind spot was telling me that I am what I do, and if not doing anything, I am nothing.
Yeah.
And so here. Yeah, right. Okay.
Yes.
So get this, right? As a guy who likes hitting targets, the only way I could get my head around doing nothing, and I have one day a week where I do nothing, no electronics, no work, no fast movements. I even deliberately walk slow. If you want to blow your mind, walk slowly. If it takes you 5 seconds to walk across the room, take 30 seconds.
I'm experimenting with that right now because my morning walks are getting kind of stale at 4 miles at a really fast pace. So yesterday, in fact, part of what I did was I took 18 minutes to walk a damn mile. It was the hardest thing I've ever done.
Yes.
But man, the presence of mind that I had at the end of it. Yes.
Because what happens is, because normally when we go fast, because we need to go fast because we're looking through a pinhole and that's going 1,000 miles an hour, right? But when you slow down, this is like, hang on, what? And then your brain kind of breaks, and all of a sudden that goes to this.
Yes.
And you're like, I am fully here. I can feel my fingers. I can feel my feet on the ground, the wind underneath my hands. Oh, I am here, connected to everything, not just 2% at 1,000 miles an hour.
Yeah. God, I love it, man. This stuff is so we've been all over the place.
The only way I could stop and have a day of nothing was this image in my head that before an arrow hits a target, it's got to go on a bow, and that the arrow has to go away from the target as that bow creates momentum. So as I'm stopping doing nothing, and yes, my brain takes a bit to adjust, that's the bow going back. So I'm going to be able to hit my targets with so much more momentum, as opposed to, I've just got to keep trying, and all these limp-wristed shots, right?
Yeah.
So having that time, having those bow days, as I call them, allows me to make greater impact than just trying.
It's so true.
Yeah.
It's so true. You know, and we say this all the time. I didn't really understand this when I was in the military, but slow is smooth, smooth is fast. Slow is smooth, smooth is fast. Man, that applies so much to my life now because we live in a world where we think everything has to be immediate, right now, right now, right now, right now. Just the faster you get it done, the better off you are. And
Because life's about efficiency, right?
well, no, I'm telling you, the flip side of that is when you do learn how to slow down, fuck, you unlock so much more shit for yourself. It's incredible.
And what you're talking about there, Adam, is unlocking if you're going to put it in layman's term, everyone's got an accelerator in the car. Everyone's been taught how to accelerate. No one's how to use the brake on their body. So tapping into what's called the parasympathetic nervous system. All right. Now, I would love to show everyone here how to tap into that brake, how to tap into that parasympathetic nervous system.
So how about we do this, man? I have thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. We're already at the hour. In the interest of, yeah, man. Yeah, that's how fast this stuff goes. I want to bring you back and I want to do more of this. Would you be willing to come back on the show?
No, for sure. But I do want to be good on my word for delivering a tangible takeaway.
So why don't we do this? Why don't you end it with some kind of breath work right now? We will talk offline after the recording's over. We'll get you back on. We'll do 3, 4, 5, 6 parts because there's so much stuff that I want to talk about. The sleep stuff and how you ended up in the sleep stuff. The benefits of breath work, we could do an entire episode where we deep dive on that stuff and the different situations and different breathing modalities that are out there that you could use for different situations to ground yourself, to get yourself out of that fight or flight response, to, I don't know, if you're just having a hard fucking day, take a second. You know what I mean? I would love to bring you back and do all of that. I knew this was going to be an awesome conversation from our emails back and forth, and I knew this was going to happen. So if you're interested in doing that, let's do the practical exercise that you said. We'll sign off for now, and then I'll bring you back and we'll release these in like their own little segment because I think this stuff to date is the most important stuff I've talked about on this show. I'm a practitioner of a lot of this stuff. I'm a believer, firm believer in all of this stuff. I've lost 100 pounds doing this shit. 311 pounds to 211 pounds. I sit somewhere between 215 and 220 right now because I'm lifting again, and chronic pain has been managed to a degree. And like, this is the stuff. This is what I talk about in my brand when I talk about the holistic healing. I really genuinely feel like I was called not only to help veterans transition better, but to play that healer role that we're not finding anymore, man. And I got to say, through talking to you and just confirming some of the things that I've done on my own and preached about for the last year, really gives me the confidence to really look inside myself and say, yes, I am qualified to be a healer in this space. So I thank you very much for that, because it's this conversation that has really brought that home for me. And that's why I think we should do more of this.
Absolutely. You said it 100%. And I know that we're at the hour, but my request is we just give it another 5 minutes, because what I'm about to show you, you will be able to access whenever, however, and it's going to make a big difference. Now, my only request is, do you have like a table in front of you, Adam? I know you're standing.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. At some point, you may need to put just one hand on that table, okay? Because this is going to create such a relaxation through your body. Some people drift out of their body. Okay.
Let's do this. Dude, I'm so excited.
Anyone listening, you just need to be seated, laying down. You can't be driving. If it is driving, just press pause. And I'm also going to give Adam a link to do this in the afterwards as well. Don't be cutting up carrots or anything. This is going to be a full body experience, and it's just going to be breathing. You've been breathing your whole life, but I'm going to show you how within 3 breaths you're going to be able to relax mind and body. So it's going to start really, it's going to start really simple, really simple. Just simply breathe in and out. Now we're going to breathe in, but then we're going to breathe in again and again and again and again. So breathe in again and again and again and again. Nice. Now, you probably noticed a bit of extra space opening up in your top third. All right.
Oh, yeah.
Now, everyone has a body, but we don't know how amazing it is. What most people don't know is with their 2 fingers and thumb, they've got a turbo button. Okay. Now, we'll call that inhale your primary and your secondary. That little bit of extra space, we're going to call that your secondary inhale. And you're going to breathe in through your primary. And when it gets to your secondary, I want you to hit your turbo buttons and notice how that impacts on your secondary inhale. So we're going to blow it all out, 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 out. Breathe in through your primary, hit your turbo buttons when you hit your secondary.
Ooh.
Oh, yeah. Hello. Ooh. Didn't know you had turbo buttons in your fingers.
I didn't know that. I knew I had the next level, but the turbo buttons, that's a cool trick.
All right. Okay. This is your circuit breaker. All right. When I've got shit in my head and I'm out in public, this is my self-medicating button. So breathe into this space. Okay. Because this space up here, we often hold our tension. If I've got shit in my head, I'll often hunch forward. Stuff becomes impossible. So this secondary inhale, we call that the breath of possibility. All right?
Oh, I love this, dude. I love this so much.
You're going to love this even more. So our chin and our turbo buttons form a triangle. And as we get to the secondary inhale, and it's all nose breathing, we're going to really drag it through our nose, mouth closed, is we're going to hit our turbo buttons and we're going to raise our chin and lift our chest and look at the ceiling. Okay? So let's blow it all out. Let your head go forward. Breathing in. Hit your turbo buttons. Raise your chin to the ceiling. In. Feel how good that is. Now hold your breath and just wriggle your shoulders. Open up that upper space. Open it up. Feel how good it is to open the front of that chest. And then just let it out with a ah.
Man, dude, this is so awesome because this is what happened to me in my first ceremony of ayahuasca. Is similar. There was no guided breath work or anything like that, but just in my experience, and I'm not going to explain this well at all, and anybody who's done plant medicine would understand, but I did this similar. It was like I hit another gear with my breath and another gear with my breath and another gear with my breath. Before I knew it, I even wrote about this in my journal. I had taken the deepest breath I could have ever imagined in my entire life and then doubled it. And that was the type of, and it's like on that exhale, everything inside of me that had ailed me was completely gone. It just, the way I talk about it or equate it is I restored balance. And to me, my interpretation of everything is the world is about balance between light and dark. It's literally in everything. I can see it on your background, right? The white letters on the green, the gold on the green, light, dark, light, dark. It's your eyes on the skin tone of your face. Same with me, right? My dark hair, my light eyes, whatever. The duality of balance. And I didn't realize how out of balance I was and how simple it is to restore that balance with breath. And even now, there'll be nights where I'm just not feeling it. I'm not feeling great. I'm not feeling great about myself. And it's just a simple, really deep breath and then go further. And then I just get to exhale all of that. And to your point, you said, oftentimes people are hunched over like this when your head's going a million miles an hour. It's because you're carrying the weight of all that bullshit. If you just fucking breathe, you stand straight up and erect. I can even see my shoulders are pulled back more now just from this little exercise that we did. Tim, brother,
we're only halfway through. That's the breath of possibility. There's the breath of peace yet, and that's this. And we've got to circle this in because that's only half the inhale. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to breathe in, hit the turbo buttons, open up, raise the chin, open up the chest. Now hold your and hold your breath. And let it go from your upper body down to your belly. Feel it pushing into your belly button. Put your hands on your belly button. Put your hands on your belly button. Let your head hang forward. Let your head hang forward like you're looking at your toes. And push and pressurize it in your lower belly. and let it out. Feel it down low, and then let it out with a okay. We're gonna do that again because I wanted to coach you through it before we just jumped into it.
Yeah.
So we're gonna breathe in. We're gonna hold it. We're gonna wriggle it. We're gonna roll our bodies. Just watch me do it before you do it. Roll our bodies down like a toothpaste rolling down. Our hands are going to be on our bellies, and we're going to pressurize it down there. And like you got a pressure cooker on a stove, and you're letting out a little bit of steam. The air's going to want to come out, but you stop it with your mouth, and it comes out with a. And the longer you do that, because down low, that's your breath of peace. That's where you got your best gas exchange for your oxygen. All right. And I just invite you to do that 3 times. For you standing, have one hand on the table, one hand on your belly, because this will really take you deep. All right. Yeah. So we're gonna do this. I'm gonna coach you through it. Everyone at home, seated or laying down, have your power buttons ready, blow it all out. Then breathing in, hit your power buttons, raise your chin, open your chest like a flower, open, 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 hold your breath, wriggle your shoulders, feel how good it is to open it up. Now let your head relax, holding your breath, let your head go down to your belly. Adam, put one hand on the bench, put one hand on your belly, squeeze it into your belly down low, and then pressurize it, let it out with a as long as you can. And as you exhale, treat your body like a deflating toy. It's all just relaxing.
Ooh, that was a good one, man.
You got 2 more.
2 more, yeah.
Okay, because we're developing a new set of systems here, and a little bit of repetition right now will then serve you as you go into your world. Okay, so let's do that again. Breathing in, opening up. Feel how you can lift your chest and open everything up. Feels awesome. Holding your breath. Wriggle, wriggle, wriggle. Let it fall down. Let it fall down. Feel it go down low like a balloon in your belly. One hand on the bench. Pressurize that and let it out with a really slow try and make it really long. Really restrict it. Let it go, let it go, let it go. Let all that tension fall out of you with your exhale. And the last one, have your power buttons ready. Breathing in. Breath of life, open up that chest. Once it's all the way in, hold it, wriggle it, feel how awesome it is to open it up, and then just collapse down. Relax everything. One hand on the bench, one hand on your stomach, down low, down low, down low. Pressurize it and let it out super slow. As long as you can on that hiss. Let that tension fall out of your body as that exhale leaves your body. And just check in, man.
I feel about 1 million pounds lighter right now. I do, man. I've been dealing with some flare-ups of some back pain, and it's colder weather here right now. I live in Florida. I moved here for the weather, did not deal with so much arthritis pain and stuff like that. It's been in the 40s for the last week. The pain's come back. I can say without a doubt the pain level is way down right now after doing those breaths. 100%, like no bullshit. For those of you listening, I encourage you to try this. It feels silly. It feels embarrassing. I just did it. This is going to go out to the entire internet. So fuck, like you got nothing to lose at this point. I promise you it's only going to make you better.
Yeah. And in public, I'll be a bit more discreet, but I'll have my self-medicating buttons with me, and I'll discreetly just breathe into that breath of possibility, create the breath of peace. And people say, how much should I breathe? When I was taking pills, I had pills not just in my medicine cabinet, but in my cupboard, in my car, in my fruit bowl. I was always self-medicating. So this breath of peace and possibility, I'll drop you a link for a tutorial for it. I'll also drop in for the first 20 people to click the link. I'll give out 20 free copies of my Breathwork in Bed book. As a gift. But if you get nothing from this conversation, it's been an awesome conversation. I can feel a lot of energy coming out from this. That the permanency of this is going to be how much you integrate this breath into your life. And use those power buttons. To trigger our breathing, we need that little bit of a circuit breaker. So I just encourage you to master that. And if you get nothing from our interaction, yeah, sure, I got an app. That's always there for people who want it. But if you get nothing but this, as easy as you've learnt it, you master it, how many other people do you think could benefit from it?
Everybody on the planet can benefit from the conversation that we've had today. And if you didn't get anything from this conversation, then I mean, I hate to say this, but you're probably broken, because you can't not listen to what we just talked about, and then to prove it to you at the end with the actual hands-on exercise here. Tim, thank you so much for doing this. I know that it's really early for you. I know that I'm asking a lot of you to come back and do probably 2 or 3 more parts to this, but this is why I'm doing what I'm doing, because these are the secrets that have been kept from us as a society and as a people for a long, long time. And I don't want to be fucking quiet about it anymore. I'm so grateful that you reached out to me on Podmatch. I'm so grateful for the back and forth in the emails. I knew this was going to be a phenomenal conversation. It's not that I don't want to stand here and have a conversation with you for the next 3 hours. It's literally just, to get this in front of people, we have to cap it at a certain amount of time. And I'll do as many of these as you want. I see a world in which I would love to get you to come put on a breathing workshop in my free community for veterans. I think that they could benefit from that. Nothing's behind a paywall there. I'll work out the issue, between, your time and resources to get it in my community or whatever. But I'm really so grateful to have met you, so grateful to be building a relationship with you. And I can't wait for part 2. We'll get that on the calendar as soon as we sign off of here. Ladies and gentlemen, I give to you Tim Thomas. I'm really super grateful, from Australian Special Forces Commando and the founder of Breathwork in Bed. Tim, tell everybody how they can find Breathwork in Bed, your other book as well, and reach out to you, the app, all that stuff. That way they can start working on this before parts 2, 3, 4, whatever we end up doing come out. Sure. I really want them to be able to get in touch with you, my man.
Okay, so if anyone's got a phone, you go to your app store, look up 3 words: Breathwork, 1 word, in bed. The app will ask you when you want to sleep, when you want to wake up, and we take care of the rest. So when people are fatigued, they say, look, here's what I want, just take care of it for me. And then improving the quality of sleep. Sleep is the soil from which everything grows. I can't do what you do, but everything gets benefited when you sleep better.
Yep.
So Breathwork in Bed in your app stores, 28-day free trial. It is a subscriber base after that, but less than a cup of coffee, and you'll get a month's worth of sleep. I can guarantee it's worthwhile. Particularly handy at 3 a.m. when your head's doing 1,000,000 miles an hour. You press a button and it'll guide you back to sleep. Of course, I got socials under the same name. I have to have them as part of my business, but there's enough social media in this world. What we need is quality sleep and quality connection to your breath. I don't see myself as a breathwork coach. I see myself as someone who connects you to the love of your life. Your lungs, you're going to create a loving relationship. It's always going to be there when you need it. You'll always have that power in your corner. And as you go into your future, you're going to know you're going to have this, power, support, peace, always there.
Yeah, I love it. Ladies and gentlemen, Tim Thomas, please don't forget to like, rate, review, subscribe, and download this episode. There's 19 million veterans in the United States. I have no idea how many through the rest of the world, but my goal is to get this in front of 1 million veterans before I turn 40 on May 9th, 2025. It's a lofty goal, but if each one of you takes 2 seconds to just share it, I know that this can benefit not only the veteran community, but humanity as a whole. So please share this with everybody. The stuff we talk about here doesn't just apply to veterans. It just happens to be a member of the community I'm a part of and needs the most help right now. So share this, help me achieve that goal. And until next week, we'll see you guys with another heater. I can't wait to bring you back, Tim. Thanks. Take care, everybody. That's our show, and I'm truly thankful you've joined us at The Strategic Veteran. If our conversation today sparked curiosity, or if you're ready to elevate your game, I'm here to help. Visit thestrategicveteran.com for exclusive show notes and resources, or to book a coaching session directly with me. Take a moment to subscribe to our podcast and share your review. Your support makes all the difference. For more insights and daily strategies, let's connect on LinkedIn and keep the conversation going. Remember, this isn't just a podcast, it's your strategic advantage in action. Until our next rendezvous, stay bold and continue the mission.